I still remember the first time I set foot on Roanoke Island. The air felt heavy, not with humidity, but with unanswered questions. Standing there among the reeds and salt grass, I couldn't shake the thought that every sound, every gust of wind through the pines might be carrying a trace of the people who once lived here and then disappeared. We call them the Lost Colony, 115 men, women, and children who vanished more than 4 centuries ago. No graves, no bodies, just one carved word left behind: Croatoan. I came here to see if the silence could still speak. When John White and his settlers sailed from England in 1587, they weren't chasing gold or glory. They were chasing survival. England wanted a foothold in the New World, a place to challenge Spain's empire and to claim its own corner of the Atlantic. White, an artist and surveyor, was chosen to lead the colony. His daughter Eleanor Dare came with him, pregnant with the first English child to be born in America. They landed on this narrow strip of land between the sea and the Sound. It wasn't paradise. The soil was sandy, the summers harsh. Still, they built wooden homes, fenced gardens, raised a fort. They were the first to try what others would only dream about, building an English life on the edge of an unknown continent. But that dream wouldn't last. Not long after landing, White sailed back to England for supplies. He expected to return within months. Instead, war got in the way. The Spanish Armada was threatening invasion, and every English ship was commandeered for defense. It took him 3 years to get back. When he finally reached Roanoke, the settlement was empty. No smoke, no voices, no footprints, just the word Croatoan carved into a wooden post. No sign of struggle, no remains. His family, his friends, all gone. Even now, as I stand where his fort once stood, it's hard to imagine the moment he must have felt. Walking through a silent camp where laughter once echoed. That carving on the post wasn't just a clue. It was a cry left for someone who never came in time. The mystery has haunted historians ever since. Over the centuries, theories have multiplied, some logical, some wild. I wanted to see which ones still hold weight, so I started with the most hopeful. Maybe they didn't vanish. Maybe they survived. Local tribes told stories of pale-skinned visitors, of settlers who had taken refuge and learned their ways. Archaeologists have even found fragments, European metal tools, pottery styles that don't fit the tribe's usual designs. If you walk through the forests south of here, you'll find areas where both English and native artifacts overlap. It's faint, but it's there, like 2 fingerprints pressed together in time. It's easy to imagine how it might have happened. 3 years with no rescue, dwindling food, isolation, and fear. The colonists must have realized England wasn't coming back. They turned to the only people nearby who could help them survive. The Croatoan tribe on Hatteras Island. I pictured that meeting in my mind. A few settlers, carrying what they could, trudging through coastal marshes toward the faint smell of cooking fires. Maybe the tribe saw desperation in their eyes and offered shelter. Maybe trade became friendship. Maybe language barriers broke down over shared survival. For a time, they might have lived together. 2 worlds blending at the edge of empire. Still, the evidence is fragile. The artifacts could have been traded rather than shared. The stories could have changed with every retelling. Yet, this theory feels human. It's the one that allows me to hope the lost colony wasn't lost at all, only absorbed, forgotten by history, not erased by it. But hope isn't proof, and proof, I soon learned, is rare here. As daylight faded on my second day, I took a small boat across the narrow channel to where the Croatoan people once lived. The water was calm, the air thick with salt. From a distance, the island looked untouched, but the ground tells a different story. I followed one archaeologist's lead into a stretch of pine forest not far from the old fort site. The ground here is soft and uneven. They'd found evidence of burned wood, small fragments of iron tools, warped by heat. It might have been from natural fire, or from something human. One charred plank was tested for age, late 1500s, right within the window. When I looked at it, blackened and half-buried, it felt like a relic of fear itself. If the settlers had been attacked, it could explain why no one ever found remains. The survivors scattered, buried by the forest, their story consumed by soil and roots. Still, without artifacts clearly marked or identified, every theory feels like a ghost story built on sand. Of all the mysteries tied to Roanoke, one name carries a haunting weight: Virginia Dare, the first English child born on American soil. Some legends claim she survived, growing up among the Croatoans, turning almost mythical. A white doe in the woods, cursed to wander. It's folklore, of course, but folklore has a way of clinging to truth. When I asked locals here about her, they smiled knowingly. She never really left, one man told me. Roanoke still belongs to her. That line stuck with me, because whether Virginia Dare lived or died, she became a symbol of something bigger. The innocence of a dream that the world forgot to rescue. Today, researchers use everything from ground-penetrating radar to satellite scans trying to find traces of that vanished colony. There's progress, faint footprints on Hatteras Island, hints of wooden post holes, shards of pottery that match Elizabethan styles, but nothing definitive. Every discovery feels like the edge of an answer that refuses to form. I talked with one field archaeologist who said, history doesn't give up its secrets easily, especially when it doesn't want to be found. That line sums up Roanoke perfectly. The mystery endures, not because it's unsolved, but because it touches something universal. Our fear of being forgotten. On my last evening, I returned to the fort one more time. The sun was sinking, turning the coastline gold. A single heron stood in the shallows, motionless. I closed my eyes and tried to imagine the sounds that might have filled this place once. Children laughing, hammers striking wood, waves breaking against the hulls of moored boats. Then I pictured what came after. Not a sudden silence, but the slow kind, the kind that settles when the last voices fade. It's strange, but standing there, I didn't feel haunted. I felt humbled. Some mysteries survive because they remind us how fragile history really is. How easily one generation's hope can become another's legend. If you ask 10 historians what happened to the lost colony, you'll get 10 answers. Assimilation, war, famine, disease, flight by sea. Maybe some combination of them all. What matters more is that each theory reflects who we are. We search for survival because we want to believe they made it. We search for tragedy because we understand loss. And we keep searching at all because deep down, we don't want the past to slip away quietly. As I left the island, I looked back across the water one last time. The air had cooled and mist was starting to roll in again. The shoreline blurred, almost disappearing, like the colony itself. We'll probably never know what really happened here, but maybe that's why the story endures. Every time a new generation comes looking for answers, they breathe life into the silence, reminding the lost that they're still being searched for. And maybe, in that sense, they were never truly gone. Next time, we follow another enigma that has defied translation for 5 centuries. The Voynich manuscript.